Hi everyone, this is Anna here, and in this video I wanted to share with you the results that I've had from my glaze testings that I've been doing with pigments under clear glazes. I've been testing new clay bodies. I have two that I'm in love with right now that I will share with you, and how the glazes look on that clay body, which turned out really nice. The tests that I've been doing for the past month, let me see, month or two, that when I started testing these new pigments that came to me from overseas for me to test. And so I've been in communication with this company, with the results. I've been sharing with them the process, how I tested these in different ways. So I'll go over all that. Um, I am not a glaze chemistry person or expert by any means. I do make some of my glazes, which I like, the glazes that I have. I keep using them, which I really like, but I also use commercial glazes. So I kind of not mix them, but I use them sometimes in the same piece. I use glazes that I mix myself in commercial glazes, and they can go together quite nicely sometimes if you layer them so that they work. It's just you need to test first. So I am going to share with you some of the results for that, the new combination. I'm always exploring new glaze combinations, new clay bodies. One clay that I'm always gonna use is porcelain, which I really, really love. But porcelain has so many, it's a finicky clay body to use. When it works beautifully. It is translucent. I love everything about porcelain except for the part that when it gives you some trouble, like warpage, some cracks, which I don't get many cracks anymore. I've learned to do some things to avoid the cracks. I know some people um, that I talk to still get cracks, like drying cracks, stuff like that. I've learned to pass that that trouble that I had on the beginning. So I know some tricks that I tell people, and I can mention them as I'm gonna discuss some of the glazes. I'll mention what I do to avoid those issues. But the warpage is something that happens. Sometimes it doesn't happen other times. I think it has to do with the shape of the whatever you make in the piece. If you make a really open form, sometimes it deforms more because porcelain moves on during the glaze firing. So if you constrain your piece to a smaller size, maybe a smaller diameter, you have less chances of warpage. I've noticed when I do my mugs, they're a little wider on the top, that can deform. Sometimes even the weight of your handle alone, like this, can pull um, your rim out of shape sometimes just by having another weight, in one side can deform. So that's when I talked about, being finicky. Um, but it is a beautiful clay body, translucent, is great for carving. So I'm always going to use that. But I like to explore other clay bodies like other stoneware because they don't give you as much trouble. And so I like to have both. I do have a small batch that I want to have on my shop, hopefully before Christmas. I'm trying to finish painting everything this week, so I will be sharing with you. In fact, I'm going to paint the hummingbird mug today, and I'm going to film that today because someone asked me if I could do it. And so I'll go ahead and paint because I was going to paint that anyways today, so I'll share that. So there'll be another video on the painting coming. And whatever I use on the hummingbird, is gonna be the same process because I like to do the watered down underglazes to give that watercolor effect, which is the same technique that I use for all my other mugs that have like maybe the frogs like this one. is going to be the same kind of watercolor, just on a different, maybe using different colors. So that's all. So I will be sharing that with you, but I'm excited to share my results. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the camera close and we'll have a discussion. So the way I'm gonna talk about these tests that I did, first I'm gonna talk about the glaze combinations that I use on some of these mugs, which are very similar to one another, except for the painting one that I did, the watercolor. But on this one, as you know, I do the watercolor style, which is a watered down, maybe 2 to 3 coats of underglazes, but watered down, so they're thin coats. And I try to mix with other colors, and I do test my underglazes to know the colors, and some colors don't go well with another color. So you need to test those to see, because when you mix one color with the other, they don't always go play well together. So that's something that you do by just testing them out. And the way I do, I like to mix in the blues and greens, teals, turquoise. Sometimes I bring in a little purple. So I use Duncan and Amico underglazes. So at some point when I run out of my Duncan underglazes, I might just switch to Amico. I know Mako are this new company that bought Duncan, and they do carry the underglazes called Easy Stroke. They're translucent underglazes, but with a very bright pigmentation. So that's something that I really like about their underglazes. So it's unfortunate that the Duncan no longer exists, but like I said, Mako do carry them, but not all the colors. So I'm hoping that they'll bring their whole line of colors because they're really good. But if they don't, I'll switch to Amico because I do use Amico also. So they turned out really nice in this clay body, the very smooth. So I have no complaints on how they turned out. Um, Even like you can see brush strokes on the frog, everything looks very, very even. Even though when I mix some of the colors, like I don't use just green, I use some blues and yellows. Their toes are very bright. I use bright orange from Amico, I believe, to really stand out. But everything turned out really good here. Um, and I used, after I painted, before I do my coat of clear coat over these painted areas, I did, no, actually I put the clear glaze, which is Kitten's Clear, and I do mix that. And I'll put the link for the glaze that I use, the Kitten's Clear, which I don't know if I've done that with another video that I've had, but I will put it anyways for you guys to have the recipe. It is my go-to clear glaze. It is zinc-free, so it's great to use over underglazes because it doesn't change much of the colors. It does erase some of the fine details. So if you make some real faint lines, that might get faded a little bit. So it's always a compromise by if you decide to clear glaze or leave it matte. When you leave your painting just with the underglazes, it shows a lot more of the detail, the painting details. But I personally don't like the matte feel to it. So I try to put clear glaze, the glossy clear glaze, which that's what this is. But I have done in the past, I have done the matte, just leaving the underglaze. It's not bad, and I know some people do like that effect. In fact, I might do one of my mugs that way, leaving the painted area just with the underglazes without any uh, clear coat over it. But I do like how smooth it is with the glossy. So for this combination, I used, which has all the blue and greens here, I use Norse Blue on the handle, Norse blue inside, which it came out as a real nice liner glaze. And it has some purple hues on this mug. I don't know, I didn't get that on some other clays that I use. So maybe it's only on this clay, which is my new clay that I'm testing. It's a white stoneware called White Bear by Kentucky Mud Works, and it's a real nice, not as bright as porcelain, but it feels like porcelain. Even the ring, that the it sounds like porcelain, but it's a stoneware, and all the colors turned out really nice on it. The glaze turned out nice. So I used Norse blue inside. I did jade, which is Amaco, and I used that because I knew jade is a very stable glaze. So I didn't want things to fall off my pot. So I did maybe about an inch band of jade through here on this bottom section. Then I used a wider band of Atlantis Aqua, which is Laguna. Then I did a thinner band here on the rim, just like I went on the inside, and then I just went on the outside a little bit with the Norse blue. And then I did some brush strokes of floating blue, which is Amaco, as you can see the darker blues here. And then when everything was dry, I went with one coat of Spectrum Pearl White. And pearl white acts like a flux. It makes everything blend in and move. So it makes almost like a waterfall effect. And you can see it didn't make it, because I knew you would make the glaze stop. The stable glaze does that. So it didn't go all the way to the bottom of the mug. So it gave a real nice effect with the glazes here. I don't know if you can tell all the colors, but it's got the darker blues, as you see in some parts. It's got the greenish, the Atlantis aqua. It's almost like it's an aqua color, but you can see some greens in here and some purples also. It has like a light purple in here, and then more of the greenish color on the bottom here. As it gets closer to the jade, it actually pulled the green down. So you see blue and green as you get down here. So what it did here too, which I don't see as much in here, it creates like these golden specks right at the end. I hope you can tell, like right through here. And it didn't get close to the leaves, which I like, because I didn't want the glaze to go over the leaves here, because this was carved. Oh, that's something I forgot to say. So the way I made these was, this main leaf here, the bigger one, is relief carved. So I removed clay. Then I wanted to have it in layers. So I added this vine here with little leaves. I put that over. So that's not carved. That's over the carved piece. Then same thing with the monstera. I actually cut the holes so it goes all the way through the last layer here on the bottom. So it's over that leaf that was carved. So that was over that. So it made out for the clay that I removed, because that's something I always have in mind is when I'm making a piece with sculptures and stuff, I'm always mindful of the weight of my piece. I don't want my piece to be heavy. This one is slightly heavier than the other pieces I have. I guess it's because of the frog and the leaf, but it's not bad. It's still a pretty good weight, but that's something I always keep in mind. I don't like my pieces to be heavy. So personal choice, I guess. And so that's what I do. Carved, this is over that. So it creates like layers, and then even the frog is, when I make the frog, it's hollow inside. So then you just have the weight of the coils that I make for the arms and legs, and then the body. This is all hollow. Um, So continuing on with the with the glaze, um, yeah, I guess these all pulled nicely, making this waterfall effect. So I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I am gonna use more of this combination, and I have no complaints about this clay at all. I guess it's smooth to throw, very nice. It's smooth to carve, so it's good for carving, good for hand building, I guess. Had no surface cracks, nothing. No drying cracks around the handles, so it worked out beautifully. So I'm pretty happy with this piece. This other one, you can see is very similar in color, the color that I use. Pretty much the same. I use the jade around, uh, maybe about an inch in here all around. And then this blue with the purple is so pretty, how it's dripping over that green. Um, I hope I'm capturing all the colors in this video because they're very pretty. I love blues and greens, so this one is it's me completely, my taste of colors. I do, although I am enjoying pinks now. When I didn't used to, but I'm going away from my blues and greens a little bit, where I love the pink now. Um, and it did what I was hoping for. These indents that I did on these leaves, I did it with that in mind, that you would pull the glaze inside and it would look like the holes in the leaves without piercing the holes completely through, because I've done that on the past. And the thing with that, when you do make the holes, I think it does look better with the holes, but sometimes you get a drip that will go through. If you're using drippy glazes, in this case I am, it would go through the hole and sometimes drip over the edge, and you can have a risk of going to the bottom. So I didn't want to take that risk on this one, but it turned out really nice. Everything is smooth. Same thing. I used on the glazes here, Duncan and Amico, and the colors. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And this one is, by the way, it is porcelain standard 365. But as you can see, the color is not much different than this stoneware that I used. So very close in color. This one is slightly darker, but you can't even tell, um, or very little. So very similar how the colors turned out also on both. Same combination as I did here, same combination here. Very similar. This one here, I recently just painted this using the watercolor technique, which is also watered down. It did what I wanted to, except for some of the colors faded a little more than I wanted to, like the pinks. Like I used a pink color here that faded. It looks more like a blush right now in here. I didn't hold up the color as well as I would like. Same thing here. I had more of a light pink and it's more like a blush color right now. And it's okay, but it makes the blues and greens stand out a little more. The reds and the orange on the flowers turned out really nice too. And same thing on the bird. Uh, Same thing, Duncan, Amico, with the Kitten's clear over, very smooth, no pinholes, nothing. And I painted the bottom part as well. And this is on frost, which is my favorite porcelain. You can see how white it is. And it is actually translucent. I put a light in here, and you can see how it is translucent. Actually, I'm gonna bring the light here for you guys to see. I just wanted to show you how translucent it is. I don't know if I'm capturing that. I turned off my other overhead light here, so it's a little darker, but you can see how with the light, this is frost porcelain. And You can see the difference here. This is not porcelain. You can see how it's not translucent at all. So that's one of the differences between the porcelain and stoneware. So I bought this base here because I want to make a little lampshade, almost like a nightlight. And I want to carve it. So the carving will show like relief carving. It will show through, and I'm going to leave it just white, just the porcelain. So that will be coming up. So back to our discussion here on this mug. I used for the handle is Flux Blossom by Amico, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, nice, subtle pink with some gold specks. That's what I usually get on porcelain. Same thing is a real nice liner glaze too, so that's what I use. Now I wonder if the gold specks I get on this glaze is because of the porcelain or if other clay bodies you get that also, but it's very pretty, very like a warm pink, very pale pink. I really like it. And it makes a great liner glaze because even on porcelain, sometimes you get, depending on the glaze, you get some it crackles on porcelain. Many glazes do that, and this one won't do that, the Flux Blossom. So I want to try the new one that they have, like I can't remember the name, the bluish flux that they came up with now. I believe it's Amico. So that when I paint, I can have other options of blue or green, you know. So I want to try other of their flux series. But this one I love, and this one came out really nice. So this will be on my shop update soon. So I think that's it for the new clay body, the one that I mentioned, the white bear. Did I mention there was white bear? That this one is what it's called by Kentucky Mud Works. I might have mentioned that, but it is a real nice clay that I am gonna be using more. Just some other little things I did with my granddaughter. These little ornaments, I made a lot of these. This was just rolled out of a texture roller. So I did that with her using cookie cutters. That was very easy. She's not even 7 yet, so she was able to make these very simple ornaments. But I use Catalina Crackle by Laguna, which is one of my favorites. It gives this real nice blue color, crackled also. And I used cobalt wash and I wiped it back so it gives the darker blues that you see is from cobalt wash, and then mixed in with the Laguna, which is like a turquoise color. Same thing on this one. I used for the snowflake. I think I have. Oh, I used this, which I think I got it. I got it at Michael's. This is just a wooden thing that you can press onto the clay. Yeah, I got a bunch of these at Michael's. See, they have these wooden things. I don't know what they're for, but that's what I use them for stamping the clay. Anyways, I use cobalt wash here and red iron oxide on this middle band, and then Catalina Crackle all over. So you got the blue, and I just dipped like this on the Catalina Crackle all over everything, all the washes. So that turned out nice too, the color. So now I want to discuss these pigments tests that I've done with you. So these pigments came from me from a company overseas, and they sent me to try 6 different colors. So it comes like this in a powder form. One is violet, teal. This one they call it maroon, but it's almost like a burgundy color. Then turquoise, intense yellow, and like an orange, red-orange color, very bright. So how I tested these, and here are the results. These are, by the way, called, and I'm gonna read to you what I found on Google when I searched for. Um, it's called inclusion stain pigments or encapsulated stains. They also call that. Basically, it takes the chemicals that make the color and encapsulates each particle in a little zirconium shell. That's the description I saw when I Googled. Um, so it keeps those particles from interacting or affecting the glaze that you use with it, except if you have a glaze that would interact with the zirconium shell, I guess, that they're talking about, that encapsulates the particles uh, of the whatever, the composition of these pigments. So, and what it does is the tests that I've done with the Kitten's Clear, it works great. So these, I added the pigments, the powder form. A little bit I added to the white underglaze that I use. And I think you can use any white underglaze just to give it color. So basically what I was doing is creating different colors of underglazes with these pigments. And then I use it for painting, just like I would use in underglazes. And so first what I did, and first of all, before I get into that, this is a new clay that I'm in love with. It's called Dark Star by also Kentucky Mudworks. And it has all these black specks. And I don't think you can see it on the video, but the specks are glossy. And I think that's the name. That's why they named it Dark Star. But it's very pretty, and it's a creamy, kind of warm color. It's not white, and it's much, much lighter than your brown speck clay. And I am gonna be using this more for some mugs. I think it would look beautiful to have exposed part of the cup or mug, and then coming with a drippy glaze over and let some of these show up, because it's really pretty. The specks, like I said, they're shiny. They might be manganese specks, but shinier than any other speckled clay that I've used. So I'm very impressed with this effect here. And I didn't know they were so strong that it would show through the underglazes, but they did. But it's okay, since this was just a test. So the way I did this, I did a quick video. I think was a short video that I did just how I was painting it. But the way I did it is I used the burgundy color mixed in with a heavy white underglaze to make it more of a pink, and the pink turned out really nice. I hope you can see the color of pink. So I first painted that as a base color all over, just the pink. Then I used a stencil with kind of like that watercolor style. I mixed in the blue, the turquoise with the yellow to make this real nice green. And then I used teal. I used the red for the flowers, the yellow. The birds have the turquoise and the teal for the wings. And then I used the yellow and red to make that real nice orange color on the chest. But what I'm mostly impressed with these pigments is that they stay true to the color. And as you know, the green is one of the colors that are most challenging for underglazes, because they change even if you use a zinc-free clear glaze like I do, but they always either fade or turn the color just slightly, like they do here. You know, they turned a little bit different green than what you use. Not that it's a bad thing, but sometimes they can be depending on what green you use. But Mine didn't change that much. They do fade just slightly. So there is a change here in what I used, the Amaco and the Duncan green here in this mug. But I am impressed that here it stayed exactly the same color that I used. And sorry about the glare. I have a hard time with the glare because it's so shiny, this glaze. I have a hard time even photographing my pieces because they are so shiny, and there's always a problem with the glare. But I hope you guys can see all the colors stay true to the color that I painted. So that was amazing to me. It was very successful with this. On this one, what I did is I mixed the clay with the powder, with the pigments alone, and wedged very well. I don't particularly like this yellow color for the clay, but it tells me that it does work for people who do the marbling with the clay. It would work perfectly well for that. This is the porcelain mixed in with the yellow. I just picked a color to mix it in just to see if it would work, and it does work. So it has the yellow on the background because it's on the clay. Then I painted using stencil these leaves, just using the turquoise blue. Turned out really nice also. And then I went over that color with the violet. And the violet's a dark violet that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know it was going to be this dark. I was hoping to be just a lighter violet color. But what I'm impressed here also is that you can layer one color over the other and it doesn't change. Like it stayed violet all the way through. It doesn't show any of the color change when you mix two colors one on top of the other. Sometimes it can affect the color. It can turn into, like I thought it would turn maybe purple, but it stayed true to the color. Each layer, it stayed a different color. So it's really good for that. Same thing on this one, and then I used the Kitten's Clear over that. And by the way, I painted all these on leather hard stage, bisqued, and then used the Kitten's Clear just by dipping it. Same thing here. Look at the green. And the green I achieved just by mixing the blue and the yellow because they didn't give me a green pigment, but they did not change at all. All the colors are real vibrant. The red and the yellow turned out really vibrant as well. And then on this one, I made it so that it had green and teal and some purple, which I mixed in the violet with some of the green, the blue, to make the purple color at the ends here. So you can see each color that I use. So I am gonna do more of this in a mug maybe, to have these leaves with all these different colors, and I loved it, how that turned out. I smeared when I was painting here with my finger, and that's what you see here, it's smeared. But since this was just a test, I wasn't really worried about it. Like I said, the only one that I thought would be lighter was the violet and this burgundy here. But when you add more white, then it does become like on that one, it became a nice pink color. On this one, I painted stripes, and again, these are all mixed in with white underglazes, so it became underglazes of all these different colors. And I overlapped. So the blue is the turquoise blue. When I overlapped the yellow over the blue, it became this real nice light green. And then where the yellow was in here, mixed in with the red, became a nice bright orange. That's the burgundy, and then that's the violet here, and then the teal. The teal is also a dark teal. So all these colors look really nice on frost porcelain. I am going to reach out to them and see if they're going to be carrying these pigments here in the US, or if they have plans of having like any pottery supplier carrying their pigments, but it's very promising. It looks really nice. Again, this ornament I'm gonna keep is one of the ones that I showed on the video, how I relief carved, did that on the wheel on this shape, and then just carved each individual leaf, like doing the relief carved. And then it looks like one is overlapping the other. And then I painted using the violet color, and it's so dark and bright that when I use the white on the tips, they hardly show. You can barely see. So the violet is really took over the the white. You can hardly see it, but it's still pretty because I used the cobalt wash where I did this graffito lines. I used the cobalt wash there, so you went inside the lines. And I think what I'm gonna do next is use a pearl luster over this whole thing. So I'm gonna keep this ornament for me because it was a test. So, but I really like, I was hoping to be a lighter violet, but it's still pretty nice. So that's all what I wanted to share with you. My new clay bodies that I love. The specs is one that I'm gonna use, and the white bear. So they're both a winner for me. I'm gonna be using them, and I hope you enjoyed. And I will be having the other video coming probably tomorrow about the painting the hummingbird mug. And feel free to give me any comments. So tell me what you're doing for the holiday season. What are you guys making? And I'll be sharing some more. I'm happy to share my results with you guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.